America, we are back, baby. Welcome to another episode of America Unfiltered with James Paskalides. Talk to you guys about our topics today. We're going to talk about Prince Andrew just being cleared to travel by the Trump administration. So, we've gone to just accepting pedophilia by ignoring the rest of the Jeffrey Epstein investigation and ignoring the overwhelming evidence. Oh, sorry, wait. Sir King Jeffrey Epstein. Let me refer to him by his right name because he's innocent, apparently. And we are accepting that Ghislaine Maxwell's in jail for trafficking, but with nobody she was trafficking to, even though Exhibit 52 showed that there was a long list of trafficking buyers, buyers of child pornography, buyers of children themselves. But no, none of that matters. Like I said, we're starting the Free Ghislaine movement over here. We're going to sell shirts, hats, mugs, everything, you name it, pens, pins. We're going to sell everything. We got a Free Ghislaine. If nobody's guilty here, why is she the only one rotting in jail? She's just a, poor woman at this point. I feel bad for her. She's rotting in jail for crimes that never existed, apparently. But yeah, Prince Andrew is now able to travel internationally freely, privately or commercially. He is able to travel the entire world. He is able to go molest kids around the entire world now at his free will. Because the FBI is just not investigating it anymore because apparently Jeffrey Epstein was innocent. I was wrong. I was peddling conspiracy theories for years that Epstein was this monster, practically the devil. But no. Sir King Jeffrey Epstein is innocent, apparently. Sir King Jeffrey Epstein runs the United States. He apparently runs the Trump administration. He runs our government. So we'll talk about that today. We'll talk about Prince Andrew a lot. We'll talk about how our government has completely walked back on the America First movement. We'll talk about Trump making a decision that can benefit America First in some way, but it's a little too late. He is talking about finally banning Chinese nationals from buying United States farmland. This is something I've been talking about for 6 months on this show and 2 years off the show. This has been a problem in the United States for a very long time. The Chinese Communist Party has been buying farmland strategically around our military bases in the United States. This is not just some random thing. This is very planned. It's coordinated. The Chinese Communist Party knows what they're doing. We've talked about the generational differences they have with China and the United States and how they're able to pass these wars along generations the way we're not able to. So, yeah, China has been setting up to defeat us in a long game, a few thousand-year-long war, and the United States is just finally doing something about it. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the implications of the ban, if they're going to ban the farmland that's already been owned, if they're going to repossess it, or what's going to happen there. We'll also talk about Netanyahu is extending his stay in Washington, D.C. after staying for a second night in a row last night. He is now staying through the weekend to have more meetings with Donald Trump. These meetings, we're being told, are about tariffs. We're being told that they are about Gaza. But we've talked about this on this show. We know what these meetings are really about. Maybe those things are mentioned. But realistically, these meetings are about pushing for a regime change. That's what Israel has been pushing for. That's what Donald Trump has been behind, as we saw how quickly Donald Trump involved the United States in the Israel-Iran conflict after campaigning on no new wars. He campaigned that we're going to be done seeing more pointless conflicts in the Middle East, and then 6 months into his presidential run, he dropped multiple bunker buster bombs all around a country that has 90 million people. And again, if Iran was close to a nuke, that is not a good thing. We should prevent that. I've talked about that. But the way it happened and the way we were publicly undermined by Netanyahu and Israel was extremely inappropriate, especially on the world stage. It was very bad for Israel, for the United States. It opened the eyes of a lot of people in my generation who weren't aware of the United States' commitment to protect Israel at all costs, and even when it does not involve the United States, protect Israel. A lot of young people voted for Trump because they were sick of seeing all the wars. They were sick of every year they've been alive that we've been in a pointless conflict in the Middle East. And yeah, we thought we were going to get a resolution of that. I thought that as well. I even promoted that on this show for months and months and months. I promoted that we were getting no new wars, that Donald Trump was sticking to his agenda, that we were in the golden age. And yeah, some of it is good. Like I just talked about, we'll talk about the ban on Chinese-owned farmland, but this is far from a golden age. This is Trump joining the deep state and the swamp that he promised to dismantle. He has freed Jeffrey Epstein, Prince Andrew. He has essentially exonerated Ghislaine. I mean, she's innocent, obviously. And now he is helping Netanyahu push for a regime change in Iran, which will inevitably lead to further United States involvement. We will most likely see boots on the ground. We most likely see more bombs dropped. I would not expect this to come immediately, but over the next 2, maybe 3 years, possibly right after the midterms, we will see something that does involve Iran. This is my prediction. I have no crystal ball to show me the future. This is just what I'm guessing, but all the facts and the history lead to that. When things like this happen, when presidents of other countries stay for a few extra nights in the United States and behind closed doors they're meeting with Donald Trump, and it's one of our supposedly closest allies, and we are already on the back end pushing for a regime change with them. It's just right in front of our eyes. Again, they're just dangling it in front of us. They're going to tell us that, no, we're stopping Iran from, bombing the United States with nukes. But no, that's that's not what's actually happening. We're pushing for a regime change. That way, Israel will not have to deal with any more problems in the Middle East. And I don't think people should be having to deal with these problems around the world. But it's not the United States' job to fix everyone's problems, especially the problems of countries we already give over $3.8 billion a year to, who we supply with almost unlimited military aid. So yeah, I mean, these are not really America First policies. This is not really in the interest of the American people. But to get to our last topic today, we'll talk about a pretty crazy interview that's going to happen tomorrow. So 2 of the most canceled people on the planet, on the right side, are dropping a podcast tomorrow. Candace Owens interviewed Nick Fuentes on her podcast. She teased it yesterday and is releasing it tomorrow. She's releasing it behind her paywall only, which I find a little odd because she could release it on X for free or Rumble for free. She's claiming that she doesn't want it to get banned or taken down, but Rumble and X are free speech platforms. I understand YouTube, that makes sense. She has 4 million subscribers on YouTube. Risking that, I understand that. But you could post it on X, you could post it on Rumble, no problem. Rumble's where Nick Fuentes does his streams, and he's also on X as well, even though they won't give him a check mark. But she has a check mark, so she should have no problem being able to upload that podcast. But nonetheless, she says it'll be cheap, like $1, a couple dollars. I'm definitely going to watch that interview, watch that podcast. Nick Fuentes said he didn't want to give a lot away about what it was going to be, but he said that it seemed more like a attack than an actual interview. He said that it seemed like Candace was trying to separate herself from him. They both, should be kind of on the same team, in my opinion. They are both part of canceled America, as you want to call it. The mainstream media doesn't accept their views because they question the Israel lobby. And Nick Fuentes' views are a lot more extreme than Candace's in a lot of ways. But he also is very well researched on a lot of things. He may be right, he may be wrong about certain things, but I don't know. I'm interested to see how this interview goes. Like I said, he said it's more like an attack than an interview, but he plays it off as he does with any other, controversy he deals with, which is a lot. So I think it'll be interesting. Definitely going to be an exciting watch. We do have a great show for you tonight, folks. We're going to talk about all those topics. The main story for the night, obviously, is the Prince Andrew. We were going to start selling free Prince Andrew shirts like we were with Ghislaine, but there's no point now because he's already freed. Remember to like, follow, subscribe if you're on YouTube, Rumble, whatever it is. Helps grow the channel. I enjoy doing these videos for you guys. I want to keep doing them for you guys. I feel like they've gotten a lot better over the last few weeks. I definitely, in the beginning, hated sitting in front of a camera. It was weird, but now I don't mind it as much. I kind of just ignore the camera, which makes this a lot simpler. But to dive right into everything, let's talk about our first topic, our featured headline of the night. Prince Andrew is being freed. So essentially, after years and years of not being able to travel almost at all, especially internationally, Prince Andrew is now allowed to travel the entire world. This obviously comes after the FBI and Department of Justice have formally ended their probe into Jeffrey Epstein. So no charges were filed against Prince Andrew. Like I said, without restrictions, he will be able to travel internationally around the entire world. Prince Andrew was one of the biggest names named in the Virginia Giuffre hearing. So we talked about Virginia Giuffre, also known as Virginia Roberts, a lot. But she was one of the key witnesses for the Jeffrey Epstein case. She was one of the people who, for years, said, I am not going to kill myself. I would never kill myself. I love my life. Or she didn't really say she loved her life. I mean, obviously her life was very traumatic in a lot of ways, but she said she loved the idea of living life, that she would never kill herself, that it didn't cross her mind, that through all the trauma she's been through, all the terrible things that Epstein, Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Dershowitz, and many others put her through, that she never was going to take her own life. And then she was hit by a bus. And when she was recovering from the bus injury, she still said, this was an attempt on my life. I will never take my own life. And then about a week or two later, she just killed herself. So, if that doesn't just scream murder, I don't know what else does. But yeah, basically, one of the key witnesses and one of the only witnesses that was pinning Prince Andrew to there, or one of the only ones that we know of who was pinning Prince Andrew to the Epstein Island, mysteriously just dies, mysteriously kills herself after years and years of saying she's not going to kill herself, after going through civil suits against Prince Andrew, winning the civil suits, getting large, I think she got $12 million from Prince Andrew, along with millions from Ghislaine. She got millions from Epstein's estate. She got millions from multiple different civil suits. So she was not putting the trauma behind her, but she was facing the trauma head on in court. She was winning every time. She was being able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she was raped by these individuals, that these individuals were forcing her to do sexual acts to them, these high profile billionaires, politicians, Hollywood elites, etc. But all this information is ignored by Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and Donald Trump, the supposedly most transparent administration in history. It went from what seemed like the most transparent administration in history to one of the more corrupt ones in history overnight as that happened. We were already starting to see Donald Trump go back on his America First policies with the Iran-Israel bombing. We've talked about that before, and we'll talk about that again later. But after that, you would expect Donald Trump to owe the American people a big win. And when he gave the American people a huge FU, when he pretty much just said to them, hey, one of the biggest things I've been campaigning on, releasing the Epstein files, when he said, we're just not going to look into that anymore. It's closed. We're going to release this half-ass video where a minute is missing from the video. We are not going to acknowledge that Virginia Giuffre was most likely murdered. We are not going to acknowledge that there are still pedophiles roaming this country, roaming through politics, roaming through business, roaming through academia. They're just not going to acknowledge any of that. They're just going to let it all go because someone's pulling the strings. Like I said, Trump has now become the deep state, or at least his administration has become the deep state. Someone in his administration is pulling the strings. I have made my theory that I think it's Peter Thiel through J.D. Vance. I think Peter Thiel was invested with Epstein in Carbine 911 and multiple other companies. Peter Thiel had similar Mossad connections and intelligence connections that Epstein had, and Peter Thiel was the one who made J.D. Vance align with Donald Trump when he said he never would. He placed him essentially in the VP spot in the White House. He is the reason Palantir is tracking our data, which we talked about over the last few days. So Peter Thiel definitely seems pretty guilty. Peter Thiel seems like he could be the one pulling the strings in the White House right now when it comes to Palantir, when it comes to the Epstein files, or the lack thereof, the Epstein files. I hope that's not true, though. I hope we don't have an American government who's completely sold out, but that is what seems to be happening. It is pretty apparent that our government no longer has the interests of the American people in mind. They are, like I said, protecting people like Prince Andrew, who is now able to travel the world to rape all the children he wants. He can go engage in all the hedonism and all the disgusting pedosexual activity that he desires. He is able to do this because the Department of Justice and FBI decided that the overwhelming amount of evidence was not overwhelming enough. That no, he is just an innocent person. No, actually scratch that. He's not an innocent person. He's a victim in this. He's actually a victim because for years he hasn't been able to travel, and he's been making his life worse because of all these false accusations that have sadly been brought against him. You know, Epstein was just such a victim in this too. You know, you feel bad. The guy was literally, he had to kill himself because it was so bad, because they were saying such bad things about him that just weren't true. They were saying he was trafficking to billionaires, but obviously that just wasn't true, we're finding out. So what a victim. You know, Ghislaine is rotting 20 years in jail, 3 years in jail already, but essentially she's just a rapist, not a trafficker. So, you know, female rapists are out in 3 to 5 years. Why isn't she out? They're all victims. I feel so bad for the victims of these crimes. You know, the victims of the Epstein case are really Epstein, Ghislaine, Prince Andrew, Dershowitz. These are the real victims. These are the people we should be feeling bad for. You know, fuck Virginia's documentary. Where's Dershowitz's? Well, why don't they get a documentary? Why don't we see their sob stories about how terrible this has been for them? Because obviously, according to Dan and according to Cash and Pam Bondi, you know, he's just a creep. We're just not supposed to be talking about this anymore. It's just weird that we are. We're the conspiracy theorists. We're the Tower 7 people now. We're the... I just fucking hate this. This last week has been just brutal making these, because I literally cannot stand the betrayal we just saw in front of our own eyes. I mean, they lied right to our faces for months about the No New Wars. They lied right to our faces for months that we were going to get the Epstein files, and not only are we not getting the Epstein files, we're now seeing the literal freeing and protection of pedophiles. I mean, it has been documented, and he lost in civil court, that Prince Andrew raped this girl, that Prince Andrew was doing extremely disgusting things on Epstein's island, and he was one of the bigger he was one of the bigger consumers on the island of the child porn and of the child sex. But no, he's able to, like I said, just go travel the world freely. You know, he can go have an absolute fuck fest all over the world, do whatever he wants. He can... I hate this. I hate this government right now. I mean, again, like the ban on Chinese farmland is great. You know, I've been pushing for that for 2 years now. You know, the no tax on tips and overtime is great, but again, I would sacrifice so much of this just to see some arrests with the Epstein list. I cannot stand the corruption we're facing and looking right in the eyes, and the fact that more people aren't standing up. Like, we're seeing a real divide in the Republican Party right in front of our eyes because of this. We're seeing a lot of people who aligned with Trump, who, you know, thought he could do no wrong, are now saying that they're going to Elon, are now saying that they don't want anything to do with the Republicans until there's a resolution of this Epstein thing, because we all know the truth. We all know what happened. It was very obvious that he was running a sex trafficking ring for high-profile elites, billionaires, Hollywood elites, for academia elites, for politicians, for some of the most high-ranking individuals around the world. There is a vast, overwhelming amount of evidence to show this. I've talked about it nonstop from my last 3 episodes. It's pretty much been all I've talked about. But even with all that evidence, they refuse to acknowledge it. even with that evidence, they refuse to hold anyone accountable. They don't hold Bill Clinton accountable. They don't hold Prince Andrew accountable. They don't hold anyone accountable. I mean, the only person who is really getting punished for this is Ghislaine Maxwell. And why is that? Like I said, free Ghislaine Maxwell. If you're going to free everyone else, why not free her? I feel bad for her at this point because she is the only one suffering for the alleged crimes of King Sir Jeffrey Epstein, as we should call him now. Because he's innocent, I say alleged because, apparently they just don't exist. They never existed. We were the Tower 7 conspiracy theorists. We were the people, pushing things that were just untrue. We're lying to the American people. The people who are talking about Epstein in 5 years are going to be the ones getting shadow banned on YouTube and shadow banned on social medias for it because it's going to be pushing disinformation. This is going to be one of the most corrupt, it already is the most corrupt cover-up, but it is going to continue to be one of the most corrupt cover-ups. We're going to see more and more things like this happen, but the fact that Prince Andrew is able to walk after paying $12 million to Virginia Giuffre, admitting that he raped her, that he has been to the island on multiple occasions. He was in Exhibit 52, which is the black book in Ghislaine's trial. After all that, this man is able to have a final world tour before he dies where he can rape all the kids around the world. Is that what we all wished for Christmas this year? Or when we blew out our birthday candles, that Prince Andrew would get to go on a fuck fest around the world while Ghislaine was the only one rotting in prison for Jeffrey Epstein's crimes against children? I don't get it. I'm so confused. I'm so upset. I feel hurt because one thing I remember specifically saying about the Trump administration is I remember talking about how I feel like for once I have a government who cares about me. That I never felt like in my entire life I had a government who gave a shit about me. I didn't feel like the Bush administration did or the Obama administration. And then I kind of felt like Trump did. And then, again, I didn't with Joe Biden. And I really thought with Trump for the first few months that he cared about the American people, and I think he used to, and I'm not saying he doesn't at all anymore, but I don't think his full interests align with the interests of the American people. I don't think he is putting America first. I don't think he is putting Americans over the deep state. I think he is becoming the deep state. We're watching that in real time because we're watching him protect pedophiles in real time. They could have said so many other things besides this investigation is closed. If they couldn't find more information, they could say, hey, we're still looking into this, but just so you know, it has become very clear that some intel agency, someone is deleting this information. And, we can obviously see the direct, clear... it is so clear that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine are working for Mossad. It is painfully obvious. if you ask any AI, if you just say, hey, do all the research you can on Ghislaine and Epstein, estimate who you think they're working for, every time it's going to say Mossad and U.S. intelligence. Every single time. And again, that's just AI estimation, but it takes all the data, it factors it in, it does deep research, then it comes to the conclusion. And it's the same conclusion that almost every American has come to for the last few years, that the overwhelming amount of data with Ehud Barak, with Ghislaine's father, that show that they were not only giving but taking money from Mossad, that they were involved in Israeli intelligence operations, that he literally helped fund and found Carbine 911 with Peter Thiel and Ehud Barak, who was Mossad, which was a Israeli spy firm, which would spy on Israeli citizens and United States citizens. So we could obviously see the clear connection to the deep state, to the three-letter agencies, to Mossad, to the CIA. But somehow Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan don't. Somehow they, over the span of a few months, went from what I thought were very smart people to absolute fucking morons. Only a moron could look at the data in front of them that I'm saying to you guys, which is publicly available, and there's a lot more data as well, that shows that he took money from Mossad, he gave money to Mossad, his girlfriend's father was Mossad and KGB. He was arrested for raping 37 or 38 girls, but only charged with 2 prostitution charges. And the attorney general literally said, I was told he was intelligence and to leave it alone. But no, none of that is enough information for them. They just think we're dumb. They just think we're going to accept this. And a lot of people are, which is the sad thing. But there's a lot of Americans, like I said, who are moving out of the Republican Party, aligning with Elon's party, creating their own parties, not being political at all, completely questioning everything they've said over the last 6 months. And it's understandable. I'm doing the exact same thing. For the last 5 months, I mean, anyone can rewatch my show. I've done it a lot recently, rewatching old episodes, because it's sad to see. There were certain things I was promoting that just were not true, and that now I'm realizing were not true. And this definitely was not the most transparent administration in history. There are a lot of things I said about them that were great and that are true, but a lot of the things I said, like the transparency part of it, like the fact we were going to get the Epstein files, the JFK files, the MLK files, we were going to get the 9/11 files, none of that seems to be true. It doesn't seem to be true that we will be in no new wars, because it seems we will be in a regime change before Trump's out of office in Iran. It does not seem like we are going to get the mass deportations we voted for, because while they're saying there will be no amnesty, they're hiding the fact that they are going to be giving millions of HB1 visas to imported labor. So we are replacing the American worker with imported labor at a time where that is not needed. We need companies to step up and stop paying slave labor to the American citizens, and American citizens will work these jobs. I hate the argument that Americans won't work the jobs. Like I said yesterday, Americans will do literally any job. You just cannot pay them slave labor. I still cannot believe that we're here. I can't believe that, what is it, almost 7 months after Trump's elected, you have to think it was strategic that they knew they were going to release almost nothing on the Epstein files, and that they did it within the first year, so that way maybe by year 3 or 4 people don't talk about it anymore, which from a PR standpoint makes sense, but from a transparency standpoint is really fucked up. But yeah, I don't understand the reason for not pushing further. I don't understand the reason for not just saying, hey, we don't have the information. We don't have the client list. We don't have this. But it is clear that it exists somewhere. We just don't know because of these intel agencies. And this is where we need the American people to stand up. And our government can ask us to stand up. And we will if they ask us to stand up for the right things. We're not going to follow our government's orders because we're free people. But if Donald Trump came up to the podium and said, the CIA, the deep state, Mossad, this intel agency, this group, whoever is holding the client list and refusing to give it to us, I'm calling on the American people to do something about it. The media would go fucking haywire and call it another insurrection and whatever, but it's what should have happened. It is the amount of support he would have received. January 6th times 1,000. Whatever your opinion is on January 6th, there were a lot of patriots there who did no crimes. There were a lot of people there who were just following Donald Trump's speech where he said we're going to march over to the Capitol peacefully and patriotically. Anyone can rewatch the speech. He explicitly said peacefully and patriotically. Doesn't mean that everyone's going to listen, and there was proven to be 26 undercover FBI agents there who were also inciting violence and inciting people to commit violence who would never have committed violence. So the whole thing was a sham. I'm sure if Trump did that again, it would have been infiltrated again, but it would have sent a message, and we probably would get some answers and resolution. Maybe we're not going to get the list. I don't think we're going to break into CIA offices and take them over, and that's not what I'm saying we should do, but Donald Trump could have rallied the American people and brought them together over this Epstein thing, and, it would have had almost bipartisan support. The Democrats would have supported it for the most part. Even the far left, the far right, the regular Republicans would have, everyone would have supported it. But Donald Trump instead chose to take the other route and just completely bury the entire thing. Free Sir King Jeffrey Epstein. We're going to free Ghislaine as well. Hats go on sale next week. And Prince Andrew, you don't even have to wait to free him because he's already freed. He will be having sex with children by next week. You could count on that. I promise you. He will be in some country where no one knows, having sex with children, because he's been on house arrest for years and he's a pedophile. And the pedophile mind, needs to, like Dexter, he needs to calm his inner demons. And to do that, he is going to engage in pedophilia. It is the reason that Jeffrey Epstein had an island for this, so at any time these people could do it at any point. They didn't have to wait for it. But no, none of that matters to our government. None of that matters to half the Republican Party. The Democrats have never been more excited because, they're celebrating any loss for Trump, even if it means we'll get no answers to one of the biggest political scandals we'll ever see in our lifetime, which is, again, just sad. It's just this ultimate divide we're seeing in our nation between the parties. We've already had a huge divide between the parties, but now we're seeing divide within them as well. We're seeing, this is going to lose the midterms for the Republicans, which I'm not even upset about at this point. They don't deserve it, and I don't want the Democrats in office either, but why do we deserve it? We just protected pedophiles, and not me. I'm speaking out against it, but why does anyone Donald Trump primaries deserve to win right now? I'll hear Elon out on this new America party. I want to see if it's actually going to be an American nationalist party or if it's going to be a pro-import the entire third world for the working class and AI for the working class and not use American labor. I want to see which route he goes. Again, Elon is not a American-born citizen, so this could go many ways, but we're going to see the policies. We'll make a decision as we see the policies. But I just cannot get over the fact that Prince Andrew is free. Prince Andrew, he should just be King Andrew now, he beat the fucking case. You're the king now. You beat the case. You essentially got away with murder, or worse than murder. You got away with raping kids. You got away with being friends with Sir King Jeffrey Epstein and Queen Ghislaine Maxwell. It's just all innocent. They're all innocent, apparently. We're all fucking stupid. We are the clowns and the conspiracy theorists. It's just so upsetting. I'm going to go on to our next topic because I want to get to something positive. I don't want to be so negative the whole time. But our next topic, we're going to talk about the Trump banning Chinese-owned farmland in the United States. This is something I've been pushing for years. This is actually a win from the Trump administration and for the American people. It would be a bigger win if they were to annex the Chinese farmland already purchased. I don't know how legal that is, but again, under the unitary executive theory, I see no reason why the president couldn't do it. It is legal for the president to literally do anything he wants, technically. So I really do want to see them annex all the Chinese-owned farmland in the United States. There's no reason that the Chinese Communist Party needs to own farmland strategically placed around our military bases. They're setting up for a generational war that we're not ready for because we have more people in this country addicted to porn, TikTok, vaping, and just being absolute morons than ever. We have a generation who barely knows how to read and write, who doesn't know how to work, who doesn't know how to do anything besides cry about their emotions. We need more strong men in this country. We need more leadership in this country. We need less slave minds in this country, less drug addicts, less depressed people, more healthy people. We need people to actually think of life as more than just this selfish, or just go about life in other than these selfish ways. In China, they're setting up for a multi-generational, few thousand year long war with the United States. They are trying to be the global power, and they cannot do that as long as the United States is in their way. They need to conquer us eventually, and maybe it's not in my lifetime, maybe it's in my children's or great-grandchildren's or whoever it is, but we need to be ready for that. We need to have strong men in this country, strong infrastructure, and we cannot have a situation like what happened in Israel and Iran. Israel, 2 years before they decided to bomb Iran, they started setting up camps and infrastructure within Iran, and then 2 years later, which was about a month ago, we saw them then activate the drones and bombs and missiles and mortars that they had set up at these camps all around Iran. So they were able to not only deflect Iran's counterattacks, but they were able to have an initial attack that was undetected completely, because there was no incoming missiles from outside the country and it was coming from within. So if we have them placing their farmland strategically around military bases, one day they'll be able to just start attacking our bases and we wouldn't see it coming. We wouldn't know it's coming. And anyone who has a problem with this, or, like I've heard people even say, oh, it's racist, stop the Chinese hate. Like, what are you talking about? It's not racist to say that Chinese nationals should not own farmland strategically placed around our military bases in the United States. It's not even racist to say that Chinese nationals should not own farmland in the United States as a whole. United States citizens should own farmland in the United States. There's no reason that interest groups from other countries or nationals from other countries who are not even United States citizens should have any right to purchase United States farmland, when we could use that farmland for agriculture, for infrastructure, for hemp, for different things that could be productive towards American society. I've been talking about this for years. Dr. Phil has actually been one of the biggest pushers behind this. He brought a lot of attention to the issue when he brought it on the Joe Rogan Experience. I don't love the Dr. Phil show. I find it cheesy, but I do love Dr. Phil. I think he's a very smart guy. He has a lot of really good interviews on his podcast as well, and he's very smart when he does those 3-hour-long interviews. I urge everyone to go watch that Joe Rogan one where he talks about the Chinese-owned farmland on United States soil, because it is a huge problem. We've had a few places already ban this. Florida, Arkansas, and Texas have already banned this within the last few years. Florida banned it a little too late. By the time they banned it, the Chinese Communist Party has purchased a lot of farmland in the state of Florida. But now Trump is, talking about making a ban for the Chinese Communist Party to not be able to buy the land at all. And this would be a huge win. He hasn't signed any executive orders or passed any laws yet, but the fact that he's talking about it and the administration is talking about it on high levels just shows you that they are taking the concerns seriously. And that's important. I mean, it's very obvious that they should have done this a long time ago. Biden should have done this. Trump should have even done it in his first term. I don't even know if he knew it was a problem in his first term, but the fact that it took this long to get it done is not a win for the United States. It's a win we're finally getting it done, but it's hard to call it a win when it's, 5 years too late and they've purchased a lot of farmland. That's why I'm saying if we don't annex the farmland they've already purchased, while yes, this is a win, it's not that big of one, because they already own a lot of the really important farmland strategically placed around the military bases, which will inevitably lead to a conflict. Whether it's in 5 years, 20 years, or 100, it does not matter. We need to be prepared. We need to be ready to fight the Chinese Communist Party. We need to be ready to defend ourselves or to be the leaders in the attack, depending on what the scenario is. And if China was to invade Taiwan and the United States was to get involved, but China already had their military, their farmland around the military bases, again, it wouldn't be good for the United States. We would see a lot of lost lives from American soldiers, and I would never forgive the president for that, for not annexing the farmland beforehand if they had the opportunity to. So I am really hoping that they choose to annex this farmland. I don't know how hard that is or how legal that is, but like I said, with the unitary executive theory, theoretically, the president can do whatever the hell he wants, and no one can stop it. So I'm hoping that it happens. I'm hoping he's able to do it. I do want to get into our next topic. I want to talk about Netanyahu extending his stay in D.C. I want to talk about the potential of a regime change in Iran. We could talk about the aftermath of the bombing a little bit as well. But President Netanyahu, we've talked about him before, is under corruption charges in his own country. He has not been a president that has helped the American people. So the American people right now seem to kind of hate Netanyahu. Not all of them, but a lot of the American people are really upset that they have brought Trump away from his no new wars agenda, that they have essentially completely deterred the America First movement. This is not just a not just one or two people on Twitter. This is a lot of conservatives saying this. You're seeing a lot of the younger generation, for the first time in kind of American history, stand up to the foreign lobbyists. We have seen boomers, we have seen other generations just fold to anything the United States said about protecting Israel, protecting all of our allies. But now the younger generation seem to question, why do we send Israel $3.8 billion a year for them to undermine us constantly when they are possibly the ones who killed our president because of the Dimona project, when they weren't even supposed to be developing a nuke in the first place? And they possibly sunk the USS Liberty, also killing American soldiers. Why do we support them? Why do we not question them? And why do we have lifelong foreign alliances when that was one of the things our founders warned against? These are questions you're seeing a lot happen on X, on like platforms that are free speech platforms. And these are questions that I'm asking too. Why do we do this? There's no good reason for it. The only good reason for it is Israel has way too much influence in our government. And upon doing more research on that, you can see that AIPAC funds 67% of the people in our government. And AIPAC isn't the only Israel lobbyist that exists. And they're technically not even an Israel lobby, even though they're the American-Israeli Political Affairs Committee and they directly lobby on behalf of Israel. They're not registered as a foreign lobbyist, which is completely illegal, but for some reason accepted within our government. The United States' undying love for Israel will die eventually because, like I said, this younger generation does not want to continue to see their dollar devalued as we send money overseas to countries that undermine us. We're watching it happen in Africa. We're watching it happen in Israel. We're watched it happen all over the Middle East as we funded proxies that literally killed American soldiers all around the globe. We watched it happen at the southern border. We give Mexico money and they allowed the invasion. We're essentially subsidizing Canada and they allowed fentanyl to pour over our borders from China. So all the countries we're subsidizing or sending money to are undermining us. And it's not Israel specific, but Netanyahu seems to be the one who's asking us for the most money and asking us for the most military supplies and continuously just finds himself in wars. He seems to, be the biggest wartime president of all time. And for some reason, some people in Israel support that. They support the constant regime changes. They support the constant wars. And no matter what anyone thinks of the October 7th attacks, as terrible and despicable and disgusting as they were, the fact that there are, conservatives and people defending the Israel lobby who are defending the Israeli soldiers killing, 200 children to defend what they said was like one or two soldiers is crazy. Like unarmed civilians, they're just murdering in the streets. And I try and stay away from the Israel-Palestine stuff a little. I don't know a crazy amount about it compared to what I know about Israel, Iran, and the other global conflicts. But yeah, it does seem pretty bad, the fact that we're allowing citizens to just be, unarmed citizens to just be murdered and wiped off the face of the earth when, again, they're unarmed, they're children, they're women, they're not guilty of anything besides being women and children in the Middle East. So why are Israeli soldiers wiping these people off the face of the earth? I do not get it. I understand defending your country after the October 7th attacks, but at this point, it's been going on for so long, and you are literally killing unarmed civilians. You are destroying Gaza. And again, I'm not, this isn't me like supporting the Hamas side of things. Like, fuck no, I hate Hamas. I hate that side of it. I'm not saying that Israel's right or Hamas is right. I'm just saying that anyone who's just killing women and children unarmed, no matter what country it is fucking terrible. And Hamas did that. They were awful for it. And Israel's now continuing to do that, and it makes them awful for it. We should not condemn anyone doing that, no matter what, no matter if we're their allies or what they are. That's not okay. Just killing women and children for no reason, unarmed women and children, it's not okay. And same with like just unarmed men generally, but like that's at least a little more acceptable in wartime. But women and children, that's despicable, and that's crossed the line. And you see people like Theo Von, who's not even that political, but he got a Thomas Massie interview. He did multiple J.D. Vance interviews. He had Trump on the pod. He's had a lot of political people on the podcast, him even speaking out about it, him saying that It's just a genocide at this point. And whether anyone agrees or disagrees with that statement, I'm not really making that claim. I'm just saying that it is wrong to kill unarmed women and children, and no matter who they are, no matter what country they're from. Killing unarmed women and children is wrong. And if anyone disagrees with me on that, just come debate me on it. If you think that it's justified that Israel is killing unarmed women and children, debate me on that subject. I would love for that debate. I'm not going to debate you on if October 7th was okay and all that, like I've acknowledged it's not, but it doesn't give you the right to just go kill unarmed women and children. It does not give your country the right to derive its own morals, because I don't know, for a country that claims to be really religious and the home of God and all these things, they don't seem to have that great of a moral compass sometimes. They also, I don't know, they're just consistently pushing for these regime changes. They're also just dragging the United States into them pretty much every single time the United States comes to their defense. And with no questions, Donald Trump drops everything to help Netanyahu when Donald Trump campaigned on no new wars for so long. So what does it really mean that Netanyahu is staying in D.C. for an extra couple of days? So Netanyahu came in for a meeting, and he ended up staying an extra night yesterday. So he stayed for 2 nights instead of 1, having meetings with Trump both nights. And then now he is staying through the weekend to have meetings again with Trump today, tomorrow, and then leave Sunday. This goes to show that there's a lot of things the American people do not know that are in the works, that we most likely are seeing the quiet formation of a war coalition. Netanyahu doesn't stay in D.C. through the weekend unless something serious is being lined up. And they're probably prepping for another strike or a permanent regime change. And like I said, you most likely won't see this till right before, right after the midterms, but it is coming. This is what they wanted. It is the reason that Israel decided to strike Iran. They claim that it was for the nuclear devices, but Israel was not able to take out Iran's nuclear devices without the United States' help. So why did they choose to just go about it themselves unless they were pushing for a regime change? Why did they target the military leaders and the high-ranking officials if they weren't pushing for a regime change? Everything they did, the entire way the battle went about, the timeline for the United States' involvement, all pushes towards a regime change. It doesn't show that we are trying to destabilize their nukes. While that might be a side effect, it doesn't show that that's the main goal. It does not show that we are staying out of it. It shows that we are actually heavily involved, and that Trump's no new wars thing was bullshit. And when they say, oh, it was a quick end to a resolution, no new wars, why'd they call it the 12-day war and a ceasefire to the war then? It completely contradicts their statements. They're trying to convince us that this wasn't a war, that this wasn't a conflict that the United States was involved in, but Israel was controlling Iran's airspace with our help. We defended Israeli airspace as well. We also supplied most of the weapons to Israel. We're giving them more bunker buster bombs so they can pretty much do what they want with them to bomb Iran repeatedly and finish this regime change and finish destabilizing their nuclear program. Why does my alarm keep going off? This is weird. But to get back into it, sorry, I got lost there with my alarm. To get back into it, it just makes no sense that any of this would be happening unless a regime change is the answer. Not, like I said, the destabilization of the nukes. It only makes sense that this would happen if Donald Trump completely sold out on his America First agenda to now align with the Israel lobby. And we've talked about why this most likely happened. It most likely happened because of the $100 million he took from Miriam Adelson. Lobbying is the most corrupt thing in politics. Donald Trump was known not to take money in 2016 and 2020 and be self-funded by his constituents, little donations here and there. But now it took hundreds of millions of dollars from different lobbyists around the world, including Miriam Adelson, to push this regime change in Iran. I don't know. I mean, we'll see what else happens, what other things Donald Trump goes back on, but I'm sure that part of the money he took or J.D. Vance took had to do with why we're not seeing the Epstein files. I'm sure there's a lot of really corrupt things that are happening that we haven't even seen yet. Again, politics is just what they allow us to see, just what they show us. Thomas Massey tweeted out today that DC is just Hollywood for ugly people, which is true. They're all a bunch of actors. They're all friends with each other behind closed doors. Half of them are working together. Half of them are working against the American people. There are spies within our government. There are corrupt people within our government. We're always going to have this until we can, like I said, dismantle the two-party system, get back to American nationalism like our founders tried to instill in this nation. And a country that supports the people, that puts the power in the people's hands, not the corrupt politicians, not the corrupt government, not the Israel lobby, not other nations, specifically ones that undermine us and have been known to possibly take out our presidents or take out American citizens. They literally, we've talked about the USS Liberty on multiple occasions, but they literally took out hundreds of American lives, and they claim that it was not a purposeful attack, even though the ship was marked with American markings and American flag, and they were broadcasting almost 24/7 over radio that they were an American surveillance ship. So there was no reason for them to think that it was an enemy ship. They, like I said, they could see the American flag from a very far distance away, but they still decided to, on multiple instances, attack this ship. They repeatedly attacked it with overplane fire, with torpedoes, killing Americans, and the United States just buried this. We didn't even question it at all, and it's one of the reasons a lot of people think we haven't even had a real president since JFK, that a lot of the presidents we've had have been put there by foreign lobbyists, because like we've talked about, APEC is a foreign lobbyist who's not registered as a foreign lobbyist in the United States. Somehow that's legal, but we just allow that, and we need to change that. A lot of it comes down to defeating this two-party system. A lot of it comes down to defeating the corruption. A lot of it comes down to putting the power back in the people's hands. The people need to realize what the Constitution says, what our founding documents say, that the power is in our hands, and we not only have the right but the duty to revolt and stand up against a corrupt government. We're seeing the fall of America in real time, and we're seeing the fall of the American government in real time. This is the time that people need to stand together. I'm not saying this is a call to arms, but I am saying we need to show the American government that we're willing to stand together, no matter how it is, whether, like I've talked about in previous episodes, whether we just choose not to vote in an election, or we choose to not pay taxes, or we throw tea in the fucking harbor. I don't care. Whatever it is, let's stand up to these. Like, why are we not standing up to them? Why are we not showing them what Americans are? Americans were sick, crazy fucks. Americans crossed the Delaware in the middle of the night in the freezing lake with fake horse teeth to go beat the fucking British. We are Hey, sorry, a sip of water. Oh my lord. Oh my lord, my throat there. No, we're sick, crazy assholes. I mean, we have done the craziest things. We are explorers. We are visionaries. We made it to the moon. We, like, as crazy as it is that, like, Christopher Columbus came over, discovered this land, and then our founders defeated the British, came over here, and in, like, battles of men just marching at each other, literally marching at each other. Men used to do that, as arrows and swords and horses fucking came at them. Like, we were sick, crazy fucks, and now we're just a country full of, like I've talked about, drug-addicted, TikTok-addicted bunch of pussies. People who don't want to stand up and fight, people who don't want to... They have no testosterone. The men in this country have negative testosterone. It is actually embarrassing. I was at a pizza shop today, and I saw a family of 5, and 2 of the kids, the older kids, had fucking Beats headphones on with their iPads in front of them as the family was splitting a pizza at a table in this small little family pizza shop. And it's just like, come on, take your fucking headphones off for a minute. Put your iPad away for literally a minute. Be a person. Why are you... like, why can't you go 20 minutes without looking at your iPad? Why is this next generation, such pussies? And not all of them, again, to the ones who aren't, cheers to you. Like, you're the better. Like, again, if you're not weak, if you're like at the baseline just like kind of a man in the next generation, you are going to run over everybody else. There's that quote by Dana White where it's like, if you're savage, you're going to run over everyone else. You don't even need to be a savage anymore. You just need to be like the baseline level of a man because everyone else is so far below it. People don't know anything anymore. People are putting their brains on autopilot to learn with AI. People don't know how to read or write. They're all addicted to weed. They're all addicted to vaping. They're all addicted to porn and OnlyFans. This is one of the, I don't know, it's going to possibly be one of the worst generations ever if we don't get our hands on the minds of these kids. If we, like, and I'm not saying me personally, I'm saying if the parents don't, it's the parents' job to instill the right values in their children. And the parents created a generation of iPad kids who are just fucking terrible. Millennials did not know how to parent their kids and just threw an iPad in these kids' hands. And these kids are demons. These kids are terrible. And no one's gonna stand up and fight in the next generation if we don't get stronger, man. I talk about all the time that strong men create good times create weak men create bad times create strong men. And we're in that, like, weak men create bad times era right now. I mean, like, Giuffre, Epstein, Ghislaine, and Prince Andrew are being freed. We're bombing Iran. We're involved in wars all over. Our dollar just got worth a lot less. Record high credit card debt in the country. Record high student loan interest payments in the country. We're not going to get the mass deportations we voted for. Yeah, I mean, welcome to the golden age, folks. Welcome to the golden age of America. It's crazy to me, but it's sad to think of, like, the fact that we used to be a country of men and, like, just these absolute savages. Like I said, like George Washington with his horse teeth or slave teeth or whatever he had. Was like, hey guys, let's get in this fucking boat and go across the river in this frozen river at night in a wooden boat so we can go kill them all on Christmas. Like, these are the fucking men who led this country. Like, people see some of the, like, the revolutionaries of my generation, or, like, even, you know, a little older than me, but, like, the younger people who are, like, trying to stand up against the government, and they're like, oh, this guy's crazy. And it's like, what? Like, yeah, no shit. Like, you gotta be a little crazy. George Washington, the president of our nation, was fucking crazy. All these guys were fucking crazy. And to start a revolution, you have to be. And again, I'm not saying call to arms. I'm saying that we need to just show the American government that the power is in the people's hands and that we're not going to just take this. We're not going to allow them to continuously get in wars for other countries. We're not going to allow them to devalue our dollar. We're not going to allow them to protect pedophiles. Oh my God, this alarm. I got to turn this thing off. This is killing me. I don't know why that's happened 4 times now. It's killing me. But we're not going to protect pedophiles. We're not going to protect Prince Andrew, Ghislaine, and Epstein. We're not going to continuously just go down this path of being lied to and being told that it's the most transparent administration in history, because it's clear that that is not true, that they are not the most transparent administration in history. I don't know if we will ever see that again while we have the Republicans and Democrats in office. I think we need to see this third party. I think we need to just see lobbying be made illegal. Like I've talked about, that would change so much. That would make everything so much less corrupt. You would have a lot less people who get into government for the wrong reasons, a lot more people who get into government for the right reasons. You would have a lot less, I don't know, you would have a lot less of these, like, unknown 3-letter agencies, a lot less of these NGOs and bureaucrats, like, because they're not going to, where are they going to get their funding? Who are they going to give their funding to? What are they going to be able to push if they can't give money to candidates? What's going to be the reason for them to stand up and do nothing? We'll see a huge reform of our government if we could just ban lobbying, but that seems impossible, because why would they vote against their self-interest to receive more money while they're in their congressional seats? They're not going to do that. I want to talk about our last topic for the day. I want to talk about I guess we already started talking about it, but I want to talk more about, like, what I think the implications of the interview will be. I want to talk about, I bet after Candace releases this interview with Nick Fuentes that we'll see a strong reaction from the Daily Wire and Turning Point USA, I'd imagine. You're going to see a strong reaction from Charlie Kirk, from Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh is still on vacation. Great time for him to take vacation. I envy that right now. but from Ben Shapiro specifically, definitely Ben Shapiro, but all the people who hate the so-called Groypers, hate Nick Fuentes, think that he's just a anti-Semite who hates Jews, hates black people, is complete racist. You're going to see those people stand up immediately, speak out against Candace for it, speak out against Nick, speak out against his entire base. But you're not going to see them make any actual claims about things Nick says. You're going to hear them say the buzzwords, like I said. They're going to call him a racist. They're going to say he hates black people and that he hates Jews. But they're not going to say any of his actual views. They're not going to say where he derives his views from. They're not going to actually quote him in any way because they can't. Because he doesn't hate Jews. He doesn't hate black people. He does have some extreme views that most people and a lot of people do not agree with. But he does have a lot of factual data to back up his claims. He does have reasons for his claims. And this is America. And everyone has the right to free speech short of threatening somebody. So I don't give a shit what someone's opinion of someone else is. As long as he's not threatening my life, I'll hear him talk. As long as he is not threatening other people's lives and actually saying I'm going to kill these people, I'll hear him out. And whether I agree with it or not, it's no one's business. It's not no one's business. It's nobody's. Like, what does that matter to anybody what this guy thinks? Why should it change free speech laws just for, like, a couple people? You see so many people on Twitter who just say, like, oh, Nick shouldn't even be able to have a show, shouldn't even be able to talk publicly. But again, whether you agree or disagree with this guy, why silence him? Why silence somebody? That's just the most un-American thing you can do. If we live in a land of free speech, or at least I thought, Candace Owens is providing a platform to him. He says that it was more of an attack than an interview. I hope that they're able to be kind of cordial in the interview when we watch it, but I doubt it based off of what he said. He said that his debate with Dinesh D'Souza was almost more cordial than his just regular podcast with Candace. And Dinesh was essentially trying to bait Nick into saying that he, was an anti-Semite, but Nick wasn't doing it because Nick isn't, like I said, he doesn't hate Jewish people. He just hates the Israel lobby. He hates Israel's influence on our government. He talks a lot about it on his show, and I urge anyone who doesn't know his views to just hear him out because I'm never going to be able to explain it as well as he can. He is a very well-versed, well-spoken, high IQ individual, and whether you agree or disagree with his takes, this is America, and you have the right to free speech, anything short of a threat. A lot of people don't agree with that. Dave Portnoy is kind of one of them. He was like, when does freedom of speech impede on freedom of religion or whatever? And he was saying that you just can't make Jew jokes. But that's dumb. Like, you should be able to joke about anybody short of a threat. Again, like, it's as long as you're not threatening someone's life or group or whatever. Like, what does it matter what someone says? Just roll over it. Stop letting it bother you. If someone says they hate Italians or hate white people, I don't go cry over it. I don't need to respond to them on Twitter every time. Again, it's their views. Maybe I'll ask them why. I'm not just going to call them a racist and a Nazi. But yeah, again, that's what's going to happen. You're going to see as this interview comes out, you're going to see people jumping immediately to call him a racist and a Nazi and shut down him completely. And again, I said I don't agree with a lot of the things he says. I don't agree with everything he says. There are some factual things he says. There are some really smart things he says. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't listen to him. Just like every other American, he has a voice. And he not only has a voice, he has a voice that thousands, hundreds of thousands of people listen to a day. He has over 180,000 subscribers on Rumble, and this is after years of being canceled, after having millions of subscribers and getting his shows taken away year after year, finally finding a platform that will allow him to talk freely. So I'm excited for this interview. I think Candace and Nick are both huge voices in the canceled America movement. I wish that it wouldn't be a hostile interview like it seems like it's going to be, but nothing you can do to fix that. I just wish that, Candace was able to see that they're both dealing with the same thing. They're both living in the same boat. They're both fighting the same fight, essentially. They could have really almost aligned together. Like, even Alex Jones and Nick Fuentes get along, and they had their beef for a while, But you see Nick Fuentes on InfoWars all the time, and he's one of the best guests on there because he's one of the most well-informed people, and he was able to predict the Iran-Israel conflict years out to a T. Every single strike, every single thing that would happen, the response by the U.S., the response by Netanyahu, the response by the Ayatollah, the response from the neocons, he predicted out to a T. So this guy obviously does know something, and just silencing him does nothing for the American people besides limit what America actually is. America's the land of opportunity and the land of free speech, and if we're going to take free speech away because we don't like what people are saying, that's a very slippery slope to just a dictatorship. That's a very slippery slope to take everyone's free speech away, or take all Republicans' free speech away, or all Democrats' free speech away because you don't like what they're talking about or you don't like their movement. That's just not how politics works. It's not how America works. It's not how it should work. America, like we've talked about, is the land of the free because of the brave, and we need to continue to support people, whether we agree with them or disagree with them, to support their right to free speech. You don't have to support their words or their arguments, or you don't have to like their platform, or you don't have to retweet their tweets, but at least support the fact that they should have a voice. Support the fact that they should be able to voice their opinions, how negative or how positive they are, to the American people, and let the American people decide what they think of it, not let the government decide what we can and can't hear, or let tech executives who run social media sites decide what we can and can't hear. I'm glad that Candace Owens did give him the chance to do this interview. Again, it's dumb she's not posting it on YouTube. I kind of understand that, but it's really dumb she's not posting it on X or Rumble, that she's making people pay for it. But, someone will leak it. But either way, I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to watch it right away. It's going to be an important interview, something that people are going to want to see. We'll talk about it on our show. I'll probably talk about it Monday. Tomorrow we have a guest on the show, so it's not going to be a normal show. Surprise guest on the show. That will be a fun one. It's one of my friends, someone I always love talking to about politics. They're liberal as well, so we'll debate about some things. We'll probably talk about this Israel-Iran stuff. We'll talk about King Sir Jeffrey Epstein, King Prince Andrew, and Queen Ghislaine Maxwell. I'll tell him about the free Ghislaine Maxwell shirts we're doing, try and get him on board. I don't think he will be, but, free Ghislaine Maxwell. Free, just like Prince Andrew. She deserves to be freed. She did nothing wrong, apparently. The overwhelming evidence just doesn't mean it's not overwhelming at all to the American government. To them, Exhibit 52, her connections to Mossad, her connections to Epstein, Ehud Barak, and all these people are just irrelevant. They don't matter to the American government because they just want to protect pedophiles, apparently. But yeah, so we're starting the Free Ghislaine movement. It's going to be bigger than Free Britney eventually. It's going to take over the world. We got a free Ghislaine. She's unjustly in prison. Yeah, she was a rapist, but female rapists deserve no more than 3 to 5 years if they even get jail time. We see it all the time. We see females rape young kids in schools, not as often as males do, but often. And some of them don't even go to jail. They just get probation. So why is Ghislaine serving 20 years in jail? And, she's obviously serving such a terrible time with her Pilates jail and her painting and all that. But, yeah, this is all the topics we had for tonight. We talked about Prince Andrew. We talked about how corrupt it is that our government is willing to just protect pedophiles, that they ignored all the evidence from Virginia Giuffre and Virginia Roberts. But how obviously Prince Andrew, how Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, Dershowitz, how they're all just innocent. Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, they're all just innocent. There is no reason to think anything of them now because Pam Bondi is saying that, he's just a creep and we should forget about it. And it's crazy we're even talking about it anymore. We talked about the American government finally deciding to ban Chinese nationals from buying U.S. farmland. This is the one win we've had in the last couple weeks, really. We haven't had a lot, so I'm glad about this one. We talked about Netanyahu deciding to extend his stay and how this most likely means we will see the regime change in the next 2 to 3 years, but right before or after the midterms is my prediction. And we talked about Candace Owens interviewing Nick Fuentes and how we are going to see the canceled right interview the canceled right, how they're not going to get along how they should be, but it's still good that we're allowing people who generally don't have voices because of the canceled media to get a voice. And it is good that No matter what the circumstances are, that we provide platforms for these people to express their opinions, especially when they have a lot of opinions. Whether you agree or disagree with them, free speech is more important than your feelings, and I will die on that hill every time. I want to check to see if there's any other, news topics we missed while we've been filming. I've been doing that over the last week, and I'm going to continue to do it. I also want to apologize for my alarm today. It has been painfully fucking annoying. I don't know why it went off 3 times. I usually don't have alarms on. Let's see. Any news headlines? Not really a lot. Andrew Tate is saying that he is going to release more information on the sex trafficking thing that we talked about yesterday. He says that a NGO paid the girl to file the claim against him, that USAID, who we've talked about, one of the worst agencies, who've finally been shut down, but they paid a girl $100,000. They paid for her flights, her food, expenses, hotels, to go file a false claim against Andrew Tate, and he has the paperwork, which he says he'll be releasing soon. Let's see. Really not a ton. Mossad is trending. What's Mossad trending for? Okay. It's again, this is just a conspiracy so far. I'll actually look into this because I'll report on it tomorrow. But they're saying that Kash Patel's girlfriend is allegedly a Mossad agent. I'm going to look into this myself before I further report on that, because that just seems like a conspiracy and just conjecture because of this whole Epstein thing. But I don't know. I mean, it could. There was one guy in the government who was dating the Chinese spy, so it's not crazy to think that they're, in our government, that they're trying to date people in our government. Besides that, I'm not really seeing much on headlines, not a ton going on. Been kind of a boring last couple days outside of this Epstein stuff. Not a ton has been going on. I've really just been ranting about the Epstein stuff for the last few days. I mean, I'm extremely pissed off about it. I'm extremely upset, as I should be, as all Americans should be. I mean, I want to go over the evidence real quick one more time, just because I talked about a lot over the last 3 days, but I'm just going to go over, this timeline real quick of Jeffrey Epstein was basically placed at Bear Stearns at, the age of 17 without graduating college. Within 3 years, he moved from the assistant of a trader to a partner at Bear Stearns. He then was arrested in 2007 for raping 38 kids, but he got off on 2 prostitution charges because Alex Acosta, the U.S. Attorney General, said that he was intelligence, and he was told to leave it alone. Then after that, he buys an office at Harvard. He gives $30 million to them for philanthropy. He is able to use this office to get connections like Bill Gates, other billionaires, academia, high-ups, future billionaires, etc. He's able to legitimatize his philanthropy efforts. He then, after that, he has his relationship with Wexner, where he is recruiting underage girls from Victoria's Secret. He is given power of attorney there to run all their financial and all their real estate portfolio. He is then giving money. Him and Wexner are sending each other money. Wexner gave him a $50 million New York piece of real estate, the largest piece of real estate in New York, for free. No one knows why. And at this point, Epstein's a billionaire, but no one knows how. He then has his friend Ehud Barak, who is the former chief of Mossad and the Israeli prime minister, who he invests in companies with and is sending money to for research, which the research was never done. They together invest in this company, Carbine 911, that Peter Thiel also invests in, which is the connection to the Donald Trump administration through J.D. Vance. After this, you then see Leon Black, another billionaire, giving him around $200 million every few years for tax reasons, which, again, there was no proof that Jeffrey Epstein ever knew how to do taxes, that he was a CPA accountant, that he knew anything about tax law or knew anything like that. And then we then see the Virginia Giuffre part of it, where we see the arrest. We see Virginia Giuffre come forward saying she's been raped by these high-profile billionaires and elites, and Jeffrey Epstein is behind it, and Ghislaine's behind it. We get Exhibit 52 with all the proof and evidence in Ghislaine's trial. I urge anyone, look up Ghislaine's transcript and trial, because there's more information in that than the government even released in the first phase of the Epstein files, that they called the first phase the only phase. But yeah, so you see all that, and then we're told for years that the cameras in the prison didn't work, that the guards were asleep. But then they, now years later, are saying that none of that was true, that they have video. They release a video. It's from the other side of the jail where you can't even see a cell. There's a minute missing in the video. They then bury the rest of the Epstein thing. Ghislaine's the only one sitting in jail, while Prince Andrew can now travel the world to go rape kids. Yeah, that's pretty much the timeline. I mean, like, Epstein, I forgot the Epstein gets killed part, but Epstein, he allegedly kills himself in his cell, the top corner in the world, and yeah, the top corner in the world basically says that no, it was not a suicide. All the breaks in his neck point to he was killed, and that's just not an accepted answer by the media. They then say no, he did kill himself. It is, or not by the media, by Dan, Cash, and Pam Bondi. They don't accept the top corner. They know more than them. But I don't know. It would make sense if Cash is dating a Mossad agent. I mean, that would make this all make a lot more sense. I doubt it's true. I bet it's just a conspiracy. But I'm going to do research on it now that I see it's trending, and there's some people are pointing out some evidence. Whether it's true or not, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, this has been a exciting week, I guess. Not exciting in the good way, but exciting in there's been a lot of fucking shit to talk about. I've been very upset. I've been very pissed off. I mean, this has just been annoying and hard to do. Like, it's been annoying to realize I was wrong about a lot. It's hard to go back on a lot of things I was saying before and realize how wrong I was, but it's important to continue to tell the truth, no matter how wrong I was about how transparent I thought Trump would be. It's important that if I continued to just shill for him, I would be no better than him. So I'm glad that at least now I'm on this side of it. I'm not a Democrat, far from it. I actually see myself just as more far right than Trump. And it's not like crazy all right. I'm just saying, like, Trump doesn't seem to align with the, conservative movement at all. He's protecting pedophiles, which is the least conservative thing I've ever seen. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's America first like he used to be. It doesn't seem like we're getting the things we were promised, but that's all I can hope for, is that we do get that. This is kind of us wrapping up the show today. Like I said, we do have a guest tomorrow on the show, so it will be a little bit of a longer episode, but it'll be a fun one. Someone I've talked to before. It'll be a fun conversation. We'll talk about all the different stuff going on politically. We'll talk about stuff going on in Florida. I'm going to try and debate him a little. I don't know how much he's going to want to debate, but whatever we can, we're going to try and give the people a good show. But I'm James Paskalides. This has been America Unfiltered, episode 86. I'm signing off today. I hope you guys have a blessed day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.